So anyway, so I said, no, leave it alone. Came home, fired up the computer, and in 20 minutes I had a time.
You guys all set?
From California.
Could I have your attention, please? I'd like to start this special meeting. Hello.
Quiet, please.
Hello. Can everyone hear me? If not, we can have the volume. Okay. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to do a little housekeeping and little rules of engagement before we start, okay? I just want to reiterate that this is a workshop between the Town Council and Kinder Morgan representatives regarding the latest proposed alternative route through Merrimack. The pros and cons of the pipeline in general and other peripheral issues related to the pipeline are not the topic of discussion tonight. There will be no comments, interaction from the audience with the Town Council or Kinder Morgan during this workshop, and please minimize any sound effects. We have maps on the wall, as you can see. We also have a digital copy, and Kinder Morgan, and we have laser pointers. So as we're talking, we're going to be able to use that to help you see what we're talking about, okay? I just want to explain the process that we're going to be doing. First, we're going to start with Kinder Morgan presenting the latest proposed alternative route. Then there's going to be a presentation. I will be verbalizing the concerns expressed. And then Kinder Morgan and the Town Council will have probably discussion, questions and concerns back and forth. Then we're going to have a Conservation Commission representative, Tim Tenhave, express any concerns and also have any questions or answers. The Merrimack Village District representative, Lon Woods, who's down at the end, the same thing. And the Merrimack School District representative, Chairman Chris Ortega, will also be expressing concern, again, having discussion and questions back and forth. At that point, we will open it up for a public comment section. Again, as usual, in Town Council meetings, this time will be available to make comments to the Council and or Kinder Morgan. This is not a question and answer comment area. It's literally comments. Kinder Morgan may choose to answer or not answer. It's only comments. And the same with the Council. As usual, a limit of 3 minutes is available for each person, and after everyone has had their say, then they can back and have another chance. The meeting is scheduled to 10 p.m. as all Council meetings are. Okay? So I would like to... Oh, yeah. Turn off your cell phones, please, or make them silent. This is my illustrious helper here. He's going to do the laser while I do the talking. I'm not going to say he's going to be my Vanna White, but anyway. So I'd like to start with Kinder Morgan presenting their alternative route. First of all, introduce yourselves.
Thank you. How about that? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the Board of Selectmen, for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm Alan Four, Vice President with Kinder Morgan, and I'll let the rest of our team introduce themselves.
My name is Mike Lennon. I'm the right-of-way manager on the project in New Hampshire.
My name is Lucas Meyer. I work in public affairs here in New Hampshire on the project.
And I'm Barry Duff. I'm the project manager on the project.
Okay, just a couple of comments to start, and to help the board and those attending and those watching on where we are from a status perspective on the project. We're still in a pre-filing process, and part of the pre-filing process with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is to attempt to continue to refine your proposed route of your project to make the infrastructure project the least impactful as possible. No project, no infrastructure project has no impacts, but to strive to make the projects the least impactful as possible. And as we sit here today, the only route we have on file is what we have filed previously with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission as part of the pre-filing process. That's what we've commonly referred to as the power line alternative. And we will be and are planning to file with FERC for our formal application in the fourth quarter. So that is forthcoming, but we haven't done that yet. So I think that's important to note that Barry, our project manager and engineer, will explain in more detail that we've been continuing to refine the route even from what is currently appearing on the screen, and we'll walk you through that tonight. So just understand that this is a fluid process, and lots of discussions have been happening and ongoing with towns, with regulatory agencies, with landowners that continue to refine the route to be prepared for the filing that we will make in the fourth quarter. And with that, I'll let Barry speak more specifically to the routing in Merrimack.
Okay, thank you. So what you see on the screen right now is our current route. If for those of you who have been involved with the discussions we've had with the Amherst Pipeline Task Force, our original route was more paralleling Continental Boulevard, which we called Option 1. We understood, we saw your letters to FERC. We heard the concerns with Thornton Elementary School and with the Merrimack Village Water District. And so we moved further to the east, more onto Fidelity's property to minimize the impacts there. We have since met with Fidelity and Simon Properties, who own the outlet mall, and have heard their concerns with the current route. We're also aware of Anheuser-Busch InBev's expansion plans, and we didn't want to impact that. And I think most folks may be aware that we have a delivery station, a meter station planned for the other side of the Everett Turnpike to Liberty. And so that's a relatively fixed constraint for us on routing. Also, our crossing of the Merrimack is also a very crucial fixed point. If we cross at any other point other than a straight portion of the river, particularly like if you could see as the meander bend there.
You got a pointer there?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The meander bend here on the southern part, that's an eroding, meandering part of the river. We don't want to put a crossing there. It's going to cause problems in the future. So we took all these things into consideration in trying to look at an alternative route. And what we've come up with, I'm going to minimize this. So this is the route we're looking at right now, and it's the route we intend to file with FERC in the fourth quarter. A few things to point out here.
The pink line or the blue line?
It's the dark blue line here.
Okay.
So a some key features of this is we're avoiding Pennachuck's conservation land, which is shown here in the green, which is under conservation easement with the Society of Protection of New Hampshire Forest. It borders their property line, which Fidelity's property line, which minimizes impacts to future expansion for them, and also creates basically a land ownership issue that they don't have to worry about it being subdivided or anything like that. And then we parallel Everett Turnpike. We will have to do a directional drill under the interchange here. And then we will come on to the Simon property, the outlet mall. This line will change. We met with the Simon Properties, the owners of the Merrimack Mall, earlier today. They want us to move over here closer to the turnpike, and we can accommodate that. It's no problem. The reason this route was chosen is they have a large sedimentation basin right here, stormwater basin, and that's not a desirable place to place a pipeline because they will muck it out over time as it fills up. But there is enough room for us to get in here between their property and the turnpike. We've had conversations with New Hampshire DOT, and they're aware of this plan, and they feel they can work with us to make this work. So we're open to any questions or other comments folks have on this route. As you can see, we're well away from the Thornton Elementary School and the Merrimack Village Water District wells. I think this addresses a lot of the concerns that we've seen.
Mind if I ask a question?
Please.
Okay. I appreciate that the route has been further modified, even further away from Thornton's Ferry. Can you give me a sense of the distance of the pipeline from the property? Not the building, but the property itself, because...
Well, the reason letter that the school district has sent to FERC, they're concerned actually from the playground distance. I have not actually had a chance to measure this, but it's well over 1,500 feet.
Okay, thank you.
To this closest point right here at this inflection point. And, you know, this is the school district's property right here. We are trying to avoid that and skirting just the edge of it.
Oh, you're waiting for me. We've just messed up my whole presentation. We were just, I did hand you the list we were going to talk about, and we were trying to review with this modification what modifications we need to make. Okay? I reserve the right to be corrected later and to perhaps come up with things that we're not thinking of at the moment.
Sure.
And the town council, please feel free to jump in as I go through. Just give me a hands up and, okay? Does that sound reasonable? Okay. Did you want to speak, Bill?
I had a question.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Barry, can you talk to me why it is better to drill under an interchange through a basin up to where the power line is, near the abutting neighborhood, as opposed to continuing straight along under FEF or Turnpike onto Robert Milligan Way and straight across?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the mall here has a large stormwater catch basin right here, And we don't want to be underneath that because as those things fill up over time, they have to muck them out and basically dredge them. And
Barry, I think that what they're asking for is why not cross the Everett Turnpike farther south?
okay, I'm
and,
sorry.
And get into the Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah, so we looked at that. That was actually option 7. We were looking at actually coming across about right here and then crossing the Merrimack and then getting back to the power line. There were several issues with that. We would be into BAE's property. There's some FAA property there. We would be, Anheuser-Busch InBev has a major expansion plan. We would interfere with that. And we'd be crossing the Merrimack at a meander bend, which it's a curve in the river, which that's experience is the river will continue to erode there, and that would be detrimental to the pipeline long term. So we don't want to cross in that kind of a situation. Whereas if we cross up higher at the power line, that's a very stable portion, high banks of the river, and that's going to more likely stay that way for the long term.
Could you show that on the screen, Barry? It's just cut off there so they can see that.
Yeah. And also, that route would impact more landowners, and which we try to avoid. So with that route, we would be crossing right about here, so you can see the meander bend of the river. And then we would have to cross some farmland. It's on the Litchfield side of the river, but we would cross some farmland and then get into more residential areas over there, which we want to avoid before we get back to the power line.
Dan, you had a question?
Quick question. Our river seems so puny when I think of the facts that you guys go into the Hudson River. So I'm just curious what your response. I mean, you're concerned about the erosion, or you're concerned about that bend, and yet all I can think about is the Hudson River and what a challenge that is, and yet you accomplished that. So I'm wondering why that would seem to bother you at that point. Like, I would just think that this body of water wouldn't really be a big challenge.
Well, it's one factor. It wasn't the end all of the decision making. It was, like I said, the properties to be impacted, a number of properties to be impacted, along with an eroding part of the river. We already have our existing system that we're expanding as part of this project already crosses the Hudson, and so we have experience with that. We don't have experience with this, and so we have a little bit more knowledge of how that's going to behave compared to the Merrimack. And as you probably know, historically, the Merrimack has had some contamination, and when you get into an eroding part of a river, that can create more of that to come up. And so being more perpendicular to the river minimizes the impact would be reflected on us.
Quick question. Are you still planning on going, because we can't sit here, between Home Depot and the auto fair?
Yes.
Okay, so that part of it is still
Yeah,
consistent.
the Amherst and just coming into Merrimack
that's the cusp.
is stable.
Because that's Merrimack.
Right.
So that part is still the same.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so
Now,
Just-
excuse me, Nancy, the map that you distributed to us, okay, still shows you continuing down the south side of Continental Boulevard, yet here it appears that you're on the north side.
Right. And like I said earlier, we've made that change because at the request of the Society of the Protection of New Hampshire Forest in Pennachuck, to be off of the green conservation lands. So before we were on the edge of those lands, and this route gets us off of those lands.
So, since you shifted it over to the north,
Right.
how many properties are impacted on that side of the road, on that side of Continental?
There's a property right here and another one on this side that are developed. So yes, those are new impacts. However, the properties that were here along Tinker Road are no longer impacted. So it's
Well, impacted is a relative term.
it's overall less impact to both conservation lands, residential lands, conservation lands than the former route.
So just for comparison purposes, what was the impact with the original route, the original alternative that you proposed here? That's on the south side of the road, in through here.
In terms of what?
Properties that were impacted.
I don't, just going off memory, there was 6 different properties that were going to be impacted on that side versus 2 on the other side. And it's not on conservation land, and it's not wetland either.
There's some wetland in that area. Tim, do you want to? You all set? Okay.
Why don't you go ahead, Nancy, with your
Yeah.
statement? Because, I mean, clearly we haven't had an opportunity to see
Correct.
this prior to tonight.
Correct.
So, and the information just keeps changing every
Yeah.
single day, if
Right.
not every single hour. So why don't you go ahead and
I'm gonna
deliver
go
your
through,
statement and then let the other reps do
There are some
it?
obvious ones that I can pick out that are
Sure.
changed. I'll state them and say probable change as it relates to this new. And you're right, Jody, it's difficult to be able to respond spontaneously when we haven't had time to look at it. The first one had to do with the Thorntons Ferry Elementary School, and again, you're going to look into that. That it's 1,100 feet from the building, and the playground is approximately 100 feet from the building, so that the actual, according to our data that we had before this meeting, you were within 1,000 feet of the playground, which is a concern. Also, the route is within 750 feet of the South Merrimack Christian Academy. Okay? The latest alternative route before was 200 to 300 feet of some large residential neighborhoods, Whittier, Camp Sargent Acres, Tinker Road, and again, there's modification than that based upon the new route. Other neighborhoods which were also affected include Cambridge Drive and Weathersfield, Holt's Landing, Castleton Ridge, Eric, and Greenfield. And what we have to do, again, is look at what things are different related to this new site. Community hospice house facility sounds like it's off now, but that wasn't it. It's not?
No,
Okay. The community hospice house facility off Continental Boulevard is within a few hundred feet of the latest alternative route. That's right. You're going to be pointing them out as we go through. Go ahead. Do your job. Impacts to commercial and retail properties of the latest alternative route in geographic order. Are you ready?
The original?
So that you can say. Got it? Okay, PC Connection, Dunkin' Donuts, Pizza Hut, Home Depot, Merrimack Historical Society Building. Okay, O'Reilly Auto Parts VIP Tire and Service, Auto Fair Volkswagen, including current construction of a rental car business and additional vehicle storage. Penchuk Square with multiple retail businesses. Innovations Salon and Spa. Is it? Site of potential South Fire Station. That's right across from the school. The actual present South Village Fire Station. Fidelity Investments. Merrimack Premium Outlets, including a proposed upscale mixed-use complex and also an additional 100,000 square feet of retail space. Albert System and Tenants. You with me? Yes. All Basic Stove Shop with the attached former Abbey Griffin House is an occupied residence. Meineke Car Care Center. Merrimack Veterinary Hospital. Anheuser-Busch, which had a proposed 50,000 square feet expansion, but that has been delayed, and other active and vacant businesses locations. It is estimated that these businesses and retail sites employ over 10,000 people. These impacts are likely to negatively impact valuable commercial and retail properties in the town, decreasing employment opportunities and tax revenues to the town. Again, referring to the latest that we had, the latest alternative route directly crosses town of Merrimack conservation property. This high-scoring habitat will be impacted by the latest alternative route. Habitats in the town of Merrimack are scored as part of the highest-ranked habitat in New Hampshire. This high-scoring habitat is included in the latest alternative route. In general, the latest alternative route runs along Continental Boulevard and is situated within wetlands and uplands. These lands require significant surveying to ensure all potential plant, insect, and animal species of concern are noted. The latest alternative route is slated to directly cross Penchuk watershed properties, which you've addressed, that border Continental Boulevard. And last, and very important to this town council, is most of the land impacted by the latest route is part of a wetland system and the Natticook Brook Aquifer that serves to provide water for the town of Merrimack, and that is through the Merrimack Village District wells. The latest route impacts an additional third well health protection area, MVD well, and water treatment facility planned for near-term construction. In short, the latest route jeopardizes the entirety of the town's public water supply. In conclusion, none of these types of sites of concern are new and being presented to you by other communities, and you have responded by modifying the route to accommodate these concerns, such as water, avoiding neighborhoods, and avoiding sensitive environmental areas. We ask similar due consideration in light of the concerns expressed tonight. Now, some of them you have addressed, but again, we need to absorb and try to find out which either additional ones of concern or which are still appropriate or not.
Yeah, and we met actually just today with both Fidelity and Simon Properties, the owner of the mall, and they much prefer this route versus the former route.
And might I suggest that sounds great, and I would encourage you to talk to the businesses that are still in play, to inform them and try to get them in the conversation. It's not this town's responsibility. We're in charge of, the schools, the neighborhoods, those kinds of things. But we wanted to identify the businesses that will be impacted and make you aware of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've had conversations with the Whittier subdivision. They have supported this route. This isn't their ideal route, but this is preferable to our current route or the original route as well. And we're, like I said, we're at the northern part here based on the feedback from the Simon Properties folks. We're going to move it further along this property line.
So it'll be
And
closer to the
be
highway than...
further away.
Nancy, who at Whittier Place did you talk to?
Well,
Pardon?
I think that's for later. That's for later, Bill.
I apologize.
Please. So even this doesn't reflect, what you're suggesting, if I'm understanding, is
Right.
that the line is going to be closer to the highway.
We're going to be closer to the highway.
Okay.
We were trying to avoid the stormwater basin right
I
here.
understand. Yeah.
But based on feedback from them, they would rather us be right along the property line here. And we will work with them to modify their stormwater basin
I understand.
to make that work. And so we will really be just on the periphery of the Whittier subdivision.
Okay.
So, and Barry, to add to that, so my team has been out for the past 2 weeks talking with residential property owners, businesses in the community. We have not had an opportunity to speak to everyone yet. We will continue those dialogues, and much as Barry alluded to, the feedback we've gotten has led to the adjustments that you see on the screen today. I'm certain that through continued dialogue with the town, with residential property owners, and with businesses will lead to more adjustments of this route. We've just, again, through what you've shared through the FERC comments, what the public has shared, and with those meetings that we have been able to have, this is what we've come up with. There will be certainly more adjustments from now through the fourth quarter filing and even beyond the fourth quarter filing.
When is the fourth quarter? What's the timeline are we talking about?
This is the one
This
Alan
is the
alluded to.
fourth quarter. We're in.
So what timeline?
So sometime in the next couple of months,
Okay.
we'll be fine.
Right.
Okay.
As you may know, FERC extended the comment period, so that's extended our timeline as well.
But that's to the 16th, I believe, right? October 16th?
And so it's going to most likely be in November.
Okay, so you may not know the answer to this, but are they going to be extending the comment section until after you've submitted?
No, we can get this put into the filing in time,
By the 16th?
yes.
Okay.
And as Michael alluded to, we're, I think there's a bit of a perception out there that when we file, that's it, and that's not the case.
That was going to be one of my first questions.
No, the pre-filing process is actually an optional process.
Okay.
You can actually just file and then change after that. We elected to do the pre-filing because it allows this kind of stuff to come out, and we go in with a better route. But we still have the opportunity to modify that as time goes on. We're planning on having what's called a supplemental filing in March, and that's going to, it's not just here, but in several other parts of the route. We will continue to refine the route and as we learn more information.
I guess my concern is, I guess I want clarification. Let's say you file your pre-file by the 15th. That allows us, so far, unless something changes, 1 day to submit comments into FERC. Now, we can always put comments in, but if we do it by the 16th, you need to respond to those comments in your next resource report. Is that correct?
Yes, but the FERC, there's a process called data request,
Okay.
where they can request us to do anything at any point. So, and we have to respond to that as well. So it isn't a closed door. If anything comes up that is an issue to them or that communities have brought up, it will be addressed.
Okay, we'll have to verify that with
Yeah.
somebody from FERC, because I think that's important. I think it's important that, and I appreciate you responding to things, but at the same time, I want to be able to have the public's ability to comment count. And my understanding is that, what I just said, that if it's after the 16th, they listen, but it doesn't require you to respond.
Yeah, and you know,
So we have to find out how we can.
as we gain access to properties and work with landowners, we will work with individual landowners to meet their accommodations. We're definitely not going to just ram it down their throats, really. I mean, we're going to work with them and accommodate
sound
them
effects.
as best we can. So it doesn't end with FERC. We will continue it the best we can as we go forward.
And we'll see what we can do to find out more data, right, Paul?
And Barry, I think it's important to add, at this point in time, no one's endorsed this route. We haven't asked anyone to endorse this route. These are adjustments that we've made based on feedback that we've gained. Now we'll share these adjustments and forthcoming adjustments and continue to work with people. This is our interpretation. We're not able to satisfy all routing suggestions, but we've been able to satisfy some here. I just want to be clear, we're not in a position where we're asking landowners to endorse anything. We're not asking for easements of any kind at this point in time. It's consultations to learn more about the property, gain access where we can to conduct surveys to confirm that this route is a buildable route or what techniques we'll need to use.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll open it up to the town council members for questions or comments. The other departments?
Conservation.
No,
Water, conservation?
After us.
After us, okay.
After us. First, we'll do any town council members. Yes, Tom?
You're talking about the FERC process. Is it under their purview to tell you what route you're going to use?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
And that's a good point. Let's be clear about that. We are the applicant. FERC is the regulator. There's also the New Hampshire Site Evaluation Committee process, which we haven't started yet, and they will have a role in this. So the route that we file with FERC will be our preferred route. The schedule we have proposed is our proposed schedule. FERC has not set any schedule yet. The only date that they have set is the comment deadline, which they extended once. So all of what you're hearing is Tennessee Gas Pipeline proposing, based upon the information that we have today. We're making our best effort to propose a route. FERC can do whatever they want, including completely changing the route. It's within their purview to do that.
Okay.
And if you're familiar with the resource reports, there's Resource Report 10, which has alternatives.
The microphone?
Sorry. If you're familiar with the resource reports, there's Resource Report 10, which
Right.
lists alternatives.
Yes.
And we looked at 7 different alternatives through Merrimack, 6 through Amherst. All of those will be in the Resource Report 10 of the detailed analysis comparing them to the original alternative. FERC does have the authority to decide the ultimate route, and they can decide that they like Route 6B or whatever over the current route.
Or they can tell you to explore others.
Yes, that's a possibility too.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other town council comments? John? And then Dan?
Well, thank you. And obviously, this is a massive change. While it doesn't impact Fidelity or the mall as much, and I'm sure they appreciate that, and I do too, it does suddenly affect the backyards of a lot of people along Thorntons Ferry Road, around the property of Fidelity. But it doesn't address any of the issues on the south end of Merrimack that we talked about and that have been mentioned a couple of times tonight with respect to the businesses and people down there. The school that's down there in that end of town, the PC Connections, Auto Fair, Home Depot, all of that area. The blasting that Home Depot did to put their facility in caused all kinds of water contamination issues. And so putting a pipeline in there is very concerning as to how that's going to impact things as far as construction and whatnot is concerned. There's obviously wetland and water through there. That's why the whole aquifer shows gray down that direction. And it doesn't address the concerns that we had with suddenly moving it down along 101A, where the water district is talking about putting in wells, and we have a major aquifer down there that helps to feed the Merrimack water. So while it takes it out of the one aquifer up along the power lines, we still have a serious problem that we're trying to understand and deal with as far as a pipeline going through.
Tom? it doesn't take it out of the aquifer up here. All it does is get it away from the wellhead protection area.
Well, it's on the other side of the hill from the aquifer.
Yes, it is.
It's on the highway side of the hill. It does take it out of the wellhead protection area.
Right.
that
From
particular
here,
one.
okay,
Yeah.
because of all the gyrations that we asked Simon to do when they were putting this in. But the aquifer is still impacted in that area.
It's over more toward Continental, though.
It's,
there.
it's still in here, yeah.
Right. It's mostly around there.
It's my understanding everything east of the mall flows to the river.
That's correct.
That's
That was
that's
one
the
of
wellhead
the-
protection area, yeah. East of the mall does flow towards the river.
And
Generally.
It was made to do that because of that. Dan?
Go ahead.
At the beginning of the process, very beginning, almost a year ago now, it seemed like it seemed to be obvious, at least to me, the reason why New Hampshire was chosen was the 78, 75-mile power line corridor, which it seemed to what made you guys attractive to move it from Massachusetts up to New Hampshire because of the power line corridor. And now, from all the revisions that have been done over the last several months, it seems like you guys have completely kind of abandoned that. And along the way, other information, like you didn't like to go along railroad beds because of vibration. You didn't like to go around highways because of vibrations. These are the things that we learned about during the process. So I am surprised tonight. It's a lot to take in, but now I'm grateful that you're on Route 3. But it goes back to my earlier comment months ago, and I thought that's what you guys didn't like to do. So now I see it up on the map, and you're right where, before knowing the details of vibration, all that, that's where we all would have wanted it. Put it near the highway, get it out of the neighborhood. So I just see that and look to say, what's the difference?
You're right. We don't like to be next to highways because maybe not today, not tomorrow, not 10 years from now.
Microphone, please.
The highways expand over time, and so the typical right-of-way agreements are, that's on our nickel if we have to move. And it's not so much the expansion, but the disruption to our customers we like to avoid. So we do like to avoid those situations, but we're trying as best we can to accommodate the comments and the issues that folks have had. And we're willing to make this change, even though it's against our basic principles of how we like to locate a pipeline. The railroad, they're less of an issue. It's a railroad; it's more fixed. But roads are problematic. We have talked to DOT, and they're willing to work with us on the turnpike route.
You mentioned expansion of highways. Are you aware of the expansion that the DOT is proposing for the Natticook and 101A area between Natticook Road and Craftsman Lane? They're adding another lane in there. It's not on here.
Yes, we've had consultations with DOT, and we're aware of that
Okay.
that upgrade there. It's part of our evaluation. It's part of the ongoing consultation, and most importantly, the on-the-ground survey data. That won't be built before we have an opportunity to survey, so we're going to have to survey the existing topography and then get the plans as they're being proposed from DOT so that we can adjust our workspace as needed, easement, so on and so forth. But thank you.
And our crossing of it, it's probably maybe not, it wasn't apparent to most folks, but our crossing of the turnpike originally in our March filing was going to conflict with the water line that had been brought in for the outlet mall, and we modified, working with DOT, we modified the route to accommodate that. And our current route still crosses at that point.
Okay.
Anybody on this side? Bill?
I guess I'd like to know, who did you talk to at Whittier Place? Because what you're communicating to me is parenthetical to what I've been this council's been dealing with for the neighbors in that community for the last 6 to 9 months.
Right, and so we had a meeting with them and their representation a few weeks back. A few of these routing alternatives were discussed. As I clarified, there was no endorsement of any potential route. There was a request generally to be as far away as possible.
But respectfully, your colleague over here basically de facto implied that there was an endorsement by the neighborhood. So I'm having conflict here, understanding what is fact and what is not fact.
Let me clarify. They had obtained our alternative 6 route and indicated that that was preferable to the current route. So what we're proposing now is a modification of alternative 6. So my presumption, maybe wrong, was that if they liked 6, this is better than 6.
But to be clear, we are well aware that their preference was the route you had touched on earlier, which was to cross the Everett Turnpike south of the premium outlets. And absolutely, we are aware that that was their preference. I think what Barry's alluding to is what's being contemplated now is less impactful than the route we started the evening with. But I fully understand there are still concerns that the folks from Whittier will have, even with the adjustments we're making. As Barry and the chairman talked about earlier, that blue line shown is already starting to shift closer to the turnpike. I'm sure we'll hear more from those folks. We'll have continued meetings with them about what we're proposing now. I'm not sure if it could lead to further adjustments in this, but I was at the meeting. They were quite clear that their preference was a crossing of the Everett Turnpike farther south.
And on that point, the maps that they handed to us don't reflect this alignment. It reflects the alignment closer to the mall, the outlets, property line, and the turnpike right-of-way. Okay, so there's a pardon?
So they didn't get,
Well, the top, yeah.
it's the
well,
last page.
Right, but I have the top page, and the top
Yeah,
page.
the top page is older.
But it reflects that more direct
You're
route,
right.
closer to the
But
turnpike.
the last page is brand new. We've only developed that in the last couple of weeks.
But I think even as Barry alluded to, the line shown there now was brought farther away from Route 3.
Further east.
Because, yes, further east, no.
Further west.
Further west because of the drainage swale, or the drainage basin there. But through the consultation that we had today, through the comments we're hearing, and certainly I'm sure Whittier's perspective on that would be the turnpike, the closer to the turnpike would be their preference, would be preferable to what's shown there. Their preference, I understand, is to cross the turnpike well south of their neighborhood.
And another piece to add to that is right now there's a parking lot right here. Long-term, they want to build a parking garage there. So, of course, we don't want to be underneath that. So that's another reason to move off of that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Barry, so, just so that I understand, you're telling me that this route that I have in front of me, that I'm seeing for the first time, is something you've been working on, not you, but your team, or the team, has been working on the last couple of weeks?
Right.
Then why was it reported the other route just a week ago that this was the preferred route running up Continental across the pad if this was something that had been in the work for a couple of weeks?
It just wasn't refined enough. I mean, like I said, we just met with the mall this morning. We met with Fidelity this morning, so it's even changed from where we were.
Was that the first time that you had met with those property owners?
No, it was the third time with Fidelity. But, this is an iterative process. I mean,
and to be clear, Barry, we 2 weeks ago at the open house in town shared this route that's on the screen now, the pink, and began consultations with landowners, again, residential and commercial, along that route. As that feedback has been coming in from my team and participating in those meetings, we've been sharing that with the project management team, the engineering team, and others to begin to look at adjustments based on the feedback that we've gotten. So as he alludes to, it's been a very fluid process, starting with the route that was shared 2 weeks ago. This morning being the blue line, and even as the day has transpired, adjustments to that. There will continue to be adjustments to this in the coming days, weeks, and even beyond the filing. I just want to be very clear and continue to stress that. I'm sure the board, as you've mentioned, will have time to digest what's being put in front of you today. We'll share comments through the formal process through FERC with us as a team as well. Again, the landowners and the businesses throughout the community will do that as well, so we can continue
But
this.
you basically created that original route, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. If I misspeak, and I apologize. But it sounds like you created that route without consulting any of the landowners ahead of time as to what your thinking was to get from Amherst through Merrimack to the other side of the
What our
river.
thinking was, yes, but again, we haven't filed anything. We haven't technically created any other route than what was filed in July, which was referred to as the power line route.
But a published report is a published report. And when you publish a report, it creates a perception.
Which
The-
report to be
September
published?
September 30th, National Telegraph published a story about the route that's going on up, that was originally proposed up Continental Boulevard. That's the one that I'm talking about. That's the one I'm asking about. It doesn't. I got, based on what you're communicating to me, it gives me the impression that you created a route without speaking with the landowners along that corridor to get a feel or a sense of what you were looking to accomplish at that particular time. It almost
Point of
feels
order.
like. I'm sorry.
The original route was done without consultation with anybody.
I understand that, but
Okay, and they've already explained, Bill, in detail, that this is a fluid process. And as we've gone through this the last 3 months, this has constantly changed. Week by week, day by day, it's constantly changed.
It has.
So if that's the issue, okay, you got to get used to the fact that it ain't over. It's just going to keep going. Thank you.
Anybody, Jody, you want anything?
I don't have any questions, and I'm going to choose my words very carefully because I'm going to try very hard to be respectful because these are our guests and they're invited. But frankly, if I had any questions for these gentlemen and I had their answers before me, I wouldn't believe what they said to me anyway. And Dan brought up a point that I wanted to make that, when this was first proposed to come through New Hampshire, co-location was the end-all, be-all, and now you've totally blown co-location, which co-location wasn't a great thing either, but you've totally blown that with this route. I'm also resentful of the fact that some of your representatives, one of them who's sitting right here, is telling people in town that the town council would not work with you. So now we're here 1 week prior to what we understand is meaningful comment period time, and you can tell me how we can comment and we can and file after the 16th with FERC. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. So now you're here tonight with yet a new proposed route that we are all looking at for the very first time. We are at such a disadvantage here. I am happy that the businesses are being listened to. The businesses in Merrimack are very important to the townspeople. They employ a lot of people. They pay taxes, and I'm very happy for that. But businesses have money. Businesses have power. Individual homeowners do not. So every time you change a route, and maybe it's not crossing someone's land, but it's within several hundred feet, that person now, again, with only a week left to meaningful comment period, that person is now dealing with your pipeline where they haven't had to for months. And that individual homeowner doesn't have the money, doesn't have the financial resources or the other resources to meaningfully have any kind of dialogue that I think is going to have any impact at all to protect their property. So while, yes, I'm happy that the businesses are speaking up and the businesses are looking out for themselves, and I don't blame them, but it's the individuals that don't have those resources that are getting rolled over by this project that it's very, very disturbing to me. So I just don't understand as a council how we're going to address any more route changes. Sure, we'll make our comments. We've been participating from the very first minute we knew about this as much as we reasonably can, but we are at a huge disadvantage, and I think you know that, and I'm very resentful of it. Thank you. But I do appreciate you coming here tonight. Thank you.
Do any of the council members want to be able to ask questions or express concerns? Dan?
More of a comment, but I hope you'll take it in a positive direction, because from the very beginning of this process, we've put our reputations on the line for our citizens here in town. One of the very first things, one of the important factors from legal advice and people within KM was a sense of, oh, all right, there's maybe an inevitability that this is coming through. I've given the scenario from day one, and as my colleagues hated that I even said it, but it's like the Department of Defense putting out a bid for a couple of submarines. They get built. They put out a bid for an aircraft carrier. They get built. When the Department of Energy puts out a bid for a pipeline, it gets built. So everyone knows in this room that it's probably coming. But for months and months, we did the next best thing, which was supposed to be cooperation. And what the most important thing that we could give advice to our citizens and ourselves was to work with the survey teams and sign on. And yet here we are again in October, and you still won't sign our survey agreement. And that hurts, because our reputations and our advice to our citizens was to cooperate, and month after month has gone by, and it hasn't happened. So I would like to, if you have an opportunity to tell me why it's taken so long, why haven't our neighborhoods that you know, whether you had Plan 1 through Plan 7, we went out of our way to play this thing right, and we've just got nothing for it. And that's frustrating, because we felt like we were doing our citizens a just service by giving them the proper advice, and it just hasn't worked out. And I would like to kind of know why.
Well, Mike, could you talk to that?
Well, I'm not specifically involved with Merrimack, so I do appreciate the town's willingness to work with us, as all individual landowners. So thank you for that. As far as the specific what's happened there, I'm sorry, I'm not.
Well, there are two
directly involved.
issues. There are two issues related. Yeah, it's really not the topic of discussion. Yeah. But I would like to talk to you, Mr. Ford, before you leave.
Sure.
Specifically about it, because it's ridiculous.
Okay.
And it should be easily resolvable. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to follow my advice. Thank you for keeping me on task. We have to follow our own rules. Okay.
Was I out of line?
That's all right. Okay, anyone else?
Be reflected in your next paycheck.
Okay, I would now like to... That's his job on the council anyway.
Yes, it is.
Tim Tenhay from the Conservation Commission. Do you have any comments, concerns, questions?
Sure. So can we take your map and go all the way over to the Merrimack River? So you've picked a location that's fairly straight. The Merrimack River in our town obviously has been here longer than the town has been here. When you go back to the early 1600s, even before that, our Native Americans used it for both commerce and recreation and travel. 1600s, it was also used that way all the way into the 1700s and further. And the Merrimack River, being used for commerce and recreation and for travel, has certain infrastructure that was placed in it a long time ago. Historical infrastructure at this point. There are numerous structures inside that river. that aren't necessarily visible when you paddle down, but if you actually look closer, you can see them. So as you get looking into that area of the river, you should be looking for structures and things that are of a historical nature, which could be impacted by any sort of movement of the land underneath them, you might say. So just be very aware of that.
We
okay?
do. We do cultural investigation surveys and look for that sort of thing. But the river has high banks in that area.
Yeah.
The current design for we're going to do a directional drill into the river. We're going to be over 600 feet from the edge of the river in our entry point, and we'll be 70 feet below the river, and likewise come out much further away from the edge of the river. So we shouldn't impact anything that's on the surface there.
All right, just wanted you to be aware because the river was a much different place many years ago. The trees weren't there. There were people that were pulling barges up and down, animals pulling barges up and down. There were locks in the river so you could adjust for the changing height. There was areas where you would maneuver around rocky areas as well as some rapids. Believe it or not, there are some rapids in the Merrimack River. So just wanted to highlight that for you. I don't think that's come out yet. So if you scroll your map now so that you show the lands around the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests, which is the Pennachuck lands.
Do you want the laser?
This here?
Yeah, and if you can go a little bit more west.
Yeah, here's a laser for you.
Yeah, I don't think I need to actually point it out. So I see an awful lot of jaggedness there. It looks like you're trying to specifically stay on someone's property and stay off someone else's.
Yes, stay off the conservation land.
Okay.
And minimize there's several more residents along Tinker Road.
Yeah, so when you look at the map as you have it now, and you go all the way from Industrial Drive, which is very up at the top, and you come all the way down to Pennachuck Brook, which follows all along the bottom, and Continental Boulevard, that whole area is part of the highest ranked habitats here in southern New Hampshire. That area, and then to the west, highest ranked habitats. It's not just the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forest land. It's the entire area except for where Fidelity is and except for those exact homes. That habitat area is ranked highest habitat, is ranked that way not only just for water, but for all the critters and for all the environmental pieces of it that allow that habitat to exist. And it's ranked that way because it's precious to us. In fact, that habitat is decreasing year after year throughout our state, and therefore it becomes more important as we go. And now we've got this really jagged thing going right through it. I'm not saying that the first one was preferable, but I must tell you, in order to put that in, you'd be clearing 100 feet all the way around, doing all your work, and then letting it close up again. Yet there'll be numerous animals, plant life, insects, amphibians, all those that will be impacted by that clearing that's going to go on.
Well, we're definitely open to any feedback you have on this, and we can
The
modify
unfortunate part is this whole entire route going all the way through the town of Hollis is that highest ranked habitat. Going north or going south, you get yourself out of it. But that whole area here is the highest ranked habitat. So let's take your map a little bit further over, and if you could zoom in to right where the word Continental is on the left-hand side. Can you see that on your map?
Usually, is
Oops.
he doesn't like to use this laser.
Yeah, so you see the parcel just below Continental? That parcel is owned by the Merrimack Conservation Commission. I just want to make you aware that when you want to go out there and take a look at it, please call me. Okay,
Right.
Not the town, no one else. Call the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, the deed states specifically it's for conservation purposes. This pipeline violates the deed completely. In fact, it's roughly the same language that you find for the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forest Properties. So take a look closely at that and realize that that's conservation property, whether it's painted green or not on your map. Okay?
Okay.
In fact, we will defend that land vigorously because we have to. It's in our deed. It's the promise we made when that land was donated to us. So just
Okay.
wanted to make you aware.
Understood, thank you.
So going a little bit further to the west now, and we're going to kind of leave our town. But the town next to us, to the west, is the town of Hollis. The pipeline going through that town also goes through that highest habitat area. I know it doesn't show up well here, but just be aware of that. Also be aware that one of those parcels is owned by their Conservation Commission, deeded for conservation purposes. So you're going to run into the same issues with them that you're going to run in with us. So I just want you to be aware. You should probably have a talk with them, okay? So.
And we are, I'm sure Merrimack has received the letter. We've sent out letters to all the towns to discuss wetland and conservation land mitigation.
Yeah, I saw the letters. It came to me. I replied to Alan. We're wide open. Our calendar for next year should be posted any day now in case he comes to that point.
Okay.
So,
And thank you. I think you bring up a good point. This starts with a line on a map, and some parcels are highlighted in green, as you pointed out, and some aren't.
Right.
And so part of the effort that my team undergoes is title research. Once these lines by the engineering team are drawn, a full analysis of who the ownership is, what the conservation restrictions may be, deed restrictions, that process follows in short order. So I appreciate you bringing up the one about Merrimack. I'll look into that tomorrow.
Okay.
But that is part of the process now, and again, it's only been this 2-week window. That process takes a little bit longer, as you can imagine, to really vet those out. So thank you for pointing them out, but that will happen for all of the parcels along this route.
Right. So, my main point was just to make it clear that you do need to come see a different body when it comes to that parcel.
Thank you. Thank
We
you.
will.
That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Okay. And representing Merrimack Village District is Lon Woods. Lon?
Thank you, Nancy. I had some prepared remarks, but as has been pointed out, a change in maps has raised or rendered them somewhat redundant. I am going to leave them with the council. I would be glad to leave them with Kinder Morgan. Back to the Continental Boulevard 101A section. Can you get back there? Basically the same area Mr. Tenne was talking about. You are still in one of the highest yielding aquifers that the Merrimack Village District draws water from. And you are in that same bind in terms of concerns we have. I'll just say from Merrimack Road through the intersection there, Continental Boulevard, and then down Continental to where your blue line starts. So you still have major impact in the only water source for the residents and businesses of the town of Merrimack. We've expressed concerns to the town of Merrimack upon their request regarding your proposed large diameter high pressure petroleum product pipeline. We've expressed to FERC those same concerns in terms of the proximity to production wells, as I said, going through very, very high charging or high recharging aquifers. And in the Continental 101A area down through Merrimack Road, you are still within our wellhead protection areas with your proposed pipeline. One of the most interesting facts for this commissioner and for the MVD Commission as a whole is we heard about your project when it was the original, you're going to go through Massachusetts and come up through Hollis because you needed to get to 101A, and were indicating to us that we had some wellhead issues or wells in the area. That was in April of 2014, I believe. You immediately backed out of there. Don't know why. I'm not going to get into that. But the interesting fact to the commission and this commissioner is since the announcement of the Northeast Direct Energy Project, the MVD that supplies water to the town of Merrimack, its residents, its businesses, have had no requests for information or of our concerns, nor any request for meeting with Kinder Morgan Tennessee Gas Pipeline, LLC. I find that very interesting. Don't know why. Thank you.
Can I summarize and suggest that somebody talk to MVD directly?
Yeah, yeah. So I have seen your letters to FERC. We know where your wells are, and that's why we chose this new route to try to avoid those.
But
and
again,
I guess I'd also.
Are
like
you
to-
asking me to decide which drop of water is more important than another? You're telling me that you've maybe avoided some problems to the east, but you have done nothing, made no comments to us, asked us for no information regarding the south and west. Thank you.
So just to confirm, though, as you noted, we've had conversations in the past and absolutely will continue a dialogue with the MVD.
Okay, so you're suggesting that you have had discussions with MVD?
We have in the past, yeah.
As well as Pennachuck.
Well, apparently that commissioner is.
Well, I want to clarify, as you noted, we have not attended a public meeting or a meeting with the full board. So if that's the request, absolutely, we will work to meet.
I'll be sure to check that information. As of 4:15 this afternoon, there was no indication of Kinder Morgan LLC having any deliberations with the MVD. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So, gotta fix that. Okay, Chris from the school department. Chris Ortega, chair.
Thank you. Would it be possible to slide the map to focus on Thornton's Ferry?
Sure.
As you're aware, we have safety concerns as it relates to the pipeline. Thornton's Ferry School there in the red, toward the center of the diagram, elementary school with 500 plus kindergarten through fourth grade students, 85 educators. One of the things you may not be aware of is that in addition to an outdoor playground, we have paths around the perimeter that serve as an outdoor educational facility that get used every day. So, as was mentioned earlier, I want to reserve the right on the adjustment from the lilac route, for lack of a better word for the color, to the blue route, because it's unclear to me that the shift in distance from the lilac to the blue to the perimeter of that school property is actually going to be 1,000 feet, which is the distance within which we oppose a pipeline being built. Additionally, the property directly across you've marked as Merrimack School, and so before you were running right through that property. Now you're running at the eastern / southern border of that property. And so you've now encroached on it and are within that, and we oppose that. Additionally, we share concerns about the aquifer. Our students get water from the Merrimack Village District, and so we still have issues with this route. It seems as if you received our letter of this week and have tried to make some adaptations, but based on what I'm seeing, the school board would still oppose the route.
We're meeting tomorrow with the Society of the Protection of the Forest, and we can bring this issue up with them and talk about some resolutions.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from anyone on the panel? John?
I'm just curious. Normally, I would expect something like this to be a fairly straight line, and yet you put some huge kinks in this. What kind of impact does the 90-degree turns and things like that have on your transmission line, if anything?
So the geometry of the pipeline can affect the ability to smart pig it. Smart pigs are robots, basically, that we send down the pipeline that can tell us the integrity of the line, whether we have a dent in it or we're having some cracking or some sort of issue like that, so that we can be proactive in fixing those problems before they become an issue. Historically, those types of tools didn't do well with 90 degrees, but they've gotten much better at that, and they have what's called a 3D bend. Long story short, the tools can navigate that, and that's what we would put in. Although it may look on the map here as a very
sharp turn,
90-degree turn, in reality it will be a little bit more gradual so that the tool can navigate that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Do any of you gentlemen want to say anything before we go to the public comment? Any questions of us? Or
I guess I just wanted to say one thing to address Ms. Valancourt's comment on co-location. We are co-locating quite a bit still with this route. We're not with the power line, but we're following the Pan Am Railway quite a ways. We're following Continental Boulevard quite a ways, and we're following Everett Turnpike quite a ways. So in terms of overall impact, this is still a better route than completely new greenfield. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay. Okay, seeing no further comments, I'm going to open the public comment. I just want to remind you that please be respectful. You can be passionate, but be respectful. Our town is known for having class, and I'd like to be able to end this meeting having that same feeling. Again, I will reiterate that Kinder Morgan and the council need not respond. This is a comment section. And please focus on the topic at hand. And Tom Koenig will help keep track of that because he's really good. Okay? So when you come up, again, you have up to 3 minutes. Please come up, state your name and what town you're from. Go right ahead.
Gina Rosati, Merrimack, New Hampshire. I'm looking, that's actually a good place right there, because I can't go there, because I know, Kinderberry, you have said that you've walked this area or traveled this area many times before. So maybe you can tell me right there where Mr. LeBlanc's place is, what significant historical place is there?
You're suggesting that there is one. It's a comment. What you're suggesting is that please look into it because there's obviously
Please look into
one
it
there.
because there are 3 significant historical sites there that you probably would like to know about, and I will let FERC know about them. Also, in the back, there is wetlands. In those wetlands, as Mr. Tenhave has said, there are numerous species of flora and fauna. I have kept a list over the last 20 years of all of the birds and critters that have showed up in my yard, which I will also be sending to FERC. Also, you think you're far enough away from the school, but I can tell you right now, I can hear those kids playing in the playground from my house, which is right there. You are well before 900 feet to that playground there. So perhaps you want to put your boots on, and you want to go out and you actually want to walk through there. I suggest you put on very, very deep boots and take a nice walk and see where you're putting that pipeline. So far today, you have 4 police officers here. So I would imagine you feel kind of threatened. So right now, our
It
water,
was not, it was
our
not,
land,
just to let you know, we have the police, not them.
every place I've gone,
Oh, okay.
every place
Well,
I've gone, they've had 4 police officers.
Okay.
When we were in Draycott, they had a plain-dressed detective watching them.
Okay.
Our water, our land, our air, our schools, our people, and now our history, because you also have the pipeline going right by our Merrimack Historical Society. So if this thing goes kaboom, all of our history is lost to us. So I suggest, did you know that? I suggest that you look really carefully and see exactly what you guys are burning up here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Wendy Thomas from Wildcat Falls Road. I'm going to read this because I don't want to get off topic. I am dismayed as much as everyone else by the new blue route, or whatever, I don't know the version number because we have had so many, so I'll have to call it the blue route. I'd like to know in what universe it is acceptable to come to a town council meeting to discuss a proposed route, and then right before the discussion begins, present a changed route. Kinder Morgan, I am appalled at your audacity, and I laugh at your continued ineptitude. With regard to Thornton's Ferry School, I am a special education advocate for the state of New Hampshire. I have concerns about the special needs kids that are in that school, particularly with those that have sensory issues. They are going to have a hellacious school year if this pipeline goes through. There's going to be whistles, there's going to be blasting, there's going to be heavy machinery. I would hope that Kinder Morgan picks up the cost to relocate these kids for the school year if the pipeline goes through. And then with a specific regard to Alan, when regarding the landowners, you said, quote, "We are not going to ram this down anyone's throat." That's kind of funny because, may I respectfully submit, that you are, in fact, ramming this pipeline down the throat of the town of Merrimack.
How you doing? Don Miner, 82 Peasley Road. When I entered the building here, Lucas Meyer came up to me and said, "I'll be very happy with the route change." What Lucas doesn't understand is you now have pulled the pipeline away from my house on Peasley Road and have now run it right through where my cows summer all summer long on LeBlanc Lane. Okay? So you really didn't accomplish anything here with this route change with me. So now I'm still in the fight, okay? When I was up at the Farm Bureau, as you can probably remember me, attest, I made a statement to you guys, I don't know if you were in the room still, that basically you've kind of thrown crap at the wall, I'll censor myself, with the route originally. And then now you've had us, with our resources and money and time, show you where to put this thing by the resistance of this and that, okay? I'm not going to tell you where to put this. I'd like to tell you where to put it. But I can assure you that the town doesn't want this. And I know you guys really, frankly, don't care. By all the meetings I've been to, and first time I've met you, Mr. Four, I don't understand. At the Farm Bureau, you were talking to farmers, and that meeting didn't go quite the way you guys had planned. Okay, you thought we were going to sit down and take it and cooperate. Lucas, you were still there. There was a guy from UNH Co-op, and he said, the size difference of the farms in this area are much smaller than what you guys are used to in the Midwest. Okay, so there's one difference. As a taxpayer in the town of Merrimack, we've retained, or the town council retained an attorney to represent our town. Okay, they've defended you and to cooperate, Mr. Dwyer in particular. I'm not faulting him. He thought this was true. I'm looking at it, and he's now seeing what we saw in the beginning, I think. I'm not putting words in his mouth. I hope I'm not. But they were defending you, and you guys just keep changing things and costing us money. The town has spent in excess of $35,000, as last I knew, with their attorney to negotiate you guys' survey on town land. And I've told them, for one, from day one, don't do it. So that's kind of money that's not well spent because you guys won't respond. I brought this up to Jim Hartman. Oh, we're on it. This is like above my pay grade.
Seconds left.
Yep. And I guess that's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Charlie Dodona on Eric Street in South Merrimack. What I've seen here tonight is a classic case of bait and switch. It's very classic. More than likely, you've had this in your back pocket for quite some time, but you want to leave very little time for comment so that we don't have time to react. Running through aquifers in South Merrimack, you have schools, a church, child care facility, my house. Right through there, well within a blast zone. This is not a good idea under any circumstances, and you are less than truthful. With any of this, less than truthful. So we sit here tonight wondering, how are we going to react to this? It's ridiculous. So at the end of the day, we're going to be stuck with whatever you ram down our throats. And that was the appropriate term. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Raven. I live on Four Winds Road. I understand this is a comment period, but also, as far as I understand right now, nobody in Merrimack has received a copy of this map, and it's right now just Kinder Morgan. So I'm simply respectfully asking if I can please take some photographs of the new proposed map. Can you start in the lower left a little bit where the new proposal comes out?
You can take one of our
Okay, you do have hard copies. The council got hard copies? No, this is what we thought we had.
The very last page.
The very last page? Okay, thank you very much. No, sir.
I didn't hear your name. I'm sorry.
Mary Beth Raven, Four Winds Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol DePiro, 10 Cambridge Drive. I'm here tonight. I was hoping that there would be some progress. I know that many of us have been working since April of last year, sending our comments to FERC, and you guys show up, and we thought we were going to get somewhere, and you've possibly moved a little bit away from one neighborhood and closer to another. Lives matter too. There is risk to everybody that you are near. Just because you're not necessarily going on their land, you are putting a lot of people at risk. You are purposely avoiding other towns because of higher population density, possibly. But there are neighborhoods that you are moving closer to. You need to take that under consideration, too.
Thank you.
Phil Morano, 5 Fernwood Drive. Thank you very much for defending the water supply, and thank you very much for defending our critters. One thing I don't understand is that your new proposed route, on the chartreuse one, or whatever it is, that purpley one, you have the radius around it that shows the scorched earth part. How come you don't have the scorched earth part around your blue thing? And if you did, wouldn't it go into the conservation areas and into the Fidelity property and around into the business areas?
The band around the fuchsia line is the survey corridor. So yes, once we adopt the blue route, we will have a similar survey corridor around that one.
Okay. The other question is, and maybe you can help me, I don't fully understand. So Fidelity has money, and they told you to get the hell out, and we don't have money, so you can go through our property. I guess the real question is, did Massachusetts have so much money that you couldn't just go straight through Massachusetts? With all due respect, New Hampshire doesn't want you. Thank you.
We're still on Philadelphia.
Go to Massachusetts.
Deborah Huffman, 60 Amherst Road. I just have a quick comment. When I drive back and forth to Massachusetts every day to work, I pass by your little markers in the middle of the highway, the little, things that show that there's a gas line coming right up the middle of the highway. That's just not a bad idea. If you have to put this here, which I'm not going to argue the data that I totally disagree with you, but, it's not in anybody's backyard. I know you said something about vibration, but that gas line's been there for how long? Why not just stick with going up the center line of a highway and not be in people's backyards? Well, you have to realize it's not just the explosions. I know you say, oh, blah, blah, safety. But you're cutting down a bunch of trees that these people have built their lives. This is the biggest investment these people will ever have in their lives, most of them, is their yard and their homes. And they've sculpted these backyards. And you're going to come through and you're going to just chop down all those trees in the backyard, and then you'll eventually let them grow, except for maybe 50 feet. That completely changes the nature of their yard. Completely. They can never put a shed in that area. They can never put a barn in that area. They're restricted for all time from enjoying their property the way they want it. They can't put a pool in that area. When all you have is a dang half acre, that might be the only place you can put your pool, and now you can't. So don't tell me it doesn't just hurt their property values, because when you can't use that area of your small little property to put your pool or your shed, of course it hurts your property values. You've changed the nature of their property. This is their biggest investment. Really, go up a highway. Don't go through people's backyards, even next to their backyards. Even if you're not on their property, you have to chop down their trees. It does change their property. It changes their lives. So stay on the highway. Why not? Preferably Route 2, all through Massachusetts.
Thank you.
Derek Muse, 3 Vanden Road, Merrimack, New Hampshire. Tonight, I had a couple of opportunities. First was to hear from you, and thank you for coming. The other one was the opportunity to work next to the gas line. I work for the Home Depot, so at least 8 hours of my life every day, with the exception of Saturday and Sunday, will be spent next to the gas line. That line is proposed right now, and I'm not as upset as I thought I would be. It's going to pass between Auto Fair and the Home Depot, correct? Am I correct? That's the proposal?
That's the way it's drawn.
That's the way it's drawn. Incinerate blast zone, you can answer it if you want, but what is the incinerate blast zone around a 36-inch gas line?
It's a 30-inch gas.
30-inch gas line? Is it 1,000 feet, 500 feet?
It's a 30-inch line. It isn't an easy question to answer, because it's like saying I'm going to drive from point A to point B, and I'm going to get in the car accident. There's a lot of variables that go into that. You can research this, but there are numerous incidents where a gas line has been struck and there's been a release and there's been no fire and there's been no incidents to the opposite. So it isn't a...
It's not defined as...
It is, no. It isn't something you can calculate or predict. There's a lot of variables to it.
Do we know how far off the Home Depot it would be, or the Auto Fair? Is it 300 feet?
There's too many variables to say anything like that.
There's not a lot of room between us and Auto Fair, so I have to think it's going to run pretty close to us. And like
the biggest threat to a pipeline is what we call third-party damage, and that's when somebody doesn't do their 811 call and they go and dig without contacting us. That's our biggest threat. You can research it. That's it across the board. We patrol the line. We enforce for folks to call before they dig. And when somebody does call us, we put a full-time inspector on there to make sure that they won't strike our line. So we do everything we can to prevent something like that from happening.
Okay, thank you.
You got about 30 seconds left.
Okay, does that include their comments as well? Okay, I guess so. Don't be so long-winded, please.
Touche.
The other thing is the Home Depot, and I don't speak for them, but every day we are aware of our aquifer underneath, and we try to protect that with all we can do. So I'm asking you to do the same thing because I drink that water as well. So please, if you can find a route south of here, please go. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Dr. Patricia Ansdell. I live on Thornton Road, right where you're bringing your little pointed thing down to. So I was going to ask you if you'd be kind enough to buy my house, which was built in 1880, because it's a very valuable, very beautiful home, which will now be of virtually no value, I imagine. So I'd like you to I'd like you to purchase it from me at present values. That's my first thought. My second is the actual point that you have there. That is actually where there's the biggest heronry I've ever seen. There are at least 100 herons' nests right there, and you're going to go straight through it. You see, if you go, no, not that point, keep going down.
There's a pointer.
No, the other point. Go down, that one. Right there is a huge heronry. And there must be at least 100 herons' nests there. Now, you're going to totally destroy that. There are beaver dams, there are moose, all the things everybody was talking about. But I have never in my life, and I've lived all over the world, ever seen a heronry like this, and you're going to destruct it. But, my first question is, please buy my house, because it's of no use to me now at all. So thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ed Thoman. I live at 216 Natticook Road. And if you can blow up that section, it's right around the corner from Pennachuck Square, basically. And two houses down is the hospice house. It'd be probably down in this corner. I think this pipeline is right in my backyard, right across the street. And
would you point to it again?
I believe it's. Yeah, can you blow that up? No pun intended. Yeah, it'd be down. Yes. I'm a little shaky, but it's
here.
Right there. Yeah, and right now we have a 32-foot artesian well in our front yard, and that's our drinking water. We're not hooked up to the town for some reason when we bought the property, but I don't even know. There's a bunch of houses right along the street here, and I know our neighbors here as well, and it would be nice. And this caught me by surprise. I mean, I haven't really followed the pipeline. I just saw the flashing thing on Continental Boulevard, and my wife said this is right in our backyard. So I'm kind of, out of it a little bit with all the latest stuff that's been going on. But not sure how that's going to fare with our lives, right in our backyard like that, and not really knowing what it's going to do to the water. But also the hospice house, it's a beautiful site that they're on, quiet, even though the boulevard's there. But people really need that convalescing that's going on there too. And so if there's any place else to move that, it'd be good for their sakes and the rest of our sakes too, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, don't walk away with that laser. Thank you.
Hi, Julie Penny, Merrimack, New Hampshire. First off, I want to thank the town council. I want to thank everyone who's here on behalf of Merrimack. I know I've been very vocal since I last spoke to you, and I've had a lot to say, and you guys have come through for me. I've pushed, and you guys have responded, so I appreciate that. That being said, hi. It's nice that you're here, but I wish you would go. I'm going to tell you right now, I have a house from 1787. I'm one of the people who has history in this town. It makes me think. It brings me back to that time. Every time I'm in my house, it brings me back to that time. And during that time was when around the Constitution was written. The Constitution says that you can, as Congress, declare war. but somehow or another, we can't get you out of our state. We don't want you here. Our delegates have all said that they don't, the people have spoken. We have all decided that we don't want this pipeline in our state, and yet you're still here, so I'm struggling a little bit with that. No pipeline in New Hampshire. The question isn't where are we going to put this, it's why are we still talking about it? It needs to go. If you look at a map, never was intended here, right? Pretty sure, because if you look at the map, even that is all very scary to me. It doesn't look like a pipeline should go that way. One would think you would want it a little straighter, a little bit more true. It looks like you just, like somebody said, you're just slapping it against the wall and you're hoping it sticks. It's going to stick somewhere, and somebody's going to be unhappy with it. Yes, you are cramming this down our throats. We don't want it. Take it with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nina Yakuboff, representing All Basics, a family organization that has been providing service and products to the Merrimack. Everyone pretty much knows us, All Basics Stove Shop. I'm new to the game here because only last week one of the plans impacted. In fact, you've changed it, I think, 3 times. I don't want to belay, I don't want to keep going on this. I want to introduce myself, and I want to know if you're promising to meet with the businesses that are being impacted that Nancy has delineated in her list, in her opening conversation. Are you going to be able to look at me and say that you will come visit us? All Basics is a small family operation that 10 people, 7 families, totally dependent on its income. And this community is dependent on the fuel and the service during the winter season. Will you stop by? And will you stop by next week? Because the deadline, I know it's fluid, but I'd really like to see somebody and have someone come over and look at our property. And for the record, it's way north. It's by where, above Anheuser-Busch, if you want to scroll up there. Everyone in the building knows where we are, but I want you to know it's a small area. To the right some more. Okay, you see the red chartreuse.
Right there.
Who's the pointer? My hands are shaky. I'm never going to be able to get this thing.
Do you want Tom to do it?
Okay.
There you go.
We're right there. Now, you used to, the last one went from here on a diagonal. Now you decided on the red one, which is old news now. But that's all I had. I only started educating myself last week, so please be patient. So please be patient with me. I only learned about all of this last week. But as of last week, this was going, before last week, it was going down as a diagonal to this Anheuser-Busch straight line across the river. And for some reason, someone nudged it up, and since our property's right there, now you're doing a right angle, which, again, as everyone else has stated, it doesn't make sense doing right angles all over the place. I'd like to discuss this. It's a small family business. I think it's important to Merrimack and the surrounding areas and the families that are not responsible, but are dependent. There's 14 kids, there's 7 families that are dependent, and we would like to have a chat and look at that, because now, whether you call it a survey zone, a blast zone, incineration zone, we have a lot of questions, and I don't want to take up more time with this group, but I want to promise.
And you got a card.
Between now and the 16th. You promise. I appreciate that.
You've said
Thank
that
you very
in front
much.
of all of us. You let us know if they don't.
Just for your information, they're closed on Monday.
What did you say?
But that would be a good day. But that would be a good day to meet them because they won't be in business. You're closed on Monday, Tom said.
Oh, well, you have time to think about it then. Because I'm looking at it, and, I have some questions, and there's obviously bigger issues, but Thank you very much, Mike. No. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry.
Because the water line that feeds the
He's at the mic, but he's not saying loud.
So, but we can work with you and modify that.
Because originally it was fine, and that's why we were never involved, and it was a diagonal, and then it became a zigzag,
And
then now I'm involved.
That was at the request of DOT, but we can work with you.
Okay, and that's where we need to have dialogue. You promise, okay. Thank
you.
you very much.
Hi, Michelle Watson, 21 Whittier Road, and I had no intentions of talking except for the comment. I'm one of the representatives from Whittier Place. I know I walked into the meeting a few minutes late, but I'm not sure which meeting you were at if you thought we endorsed that route. We came to the meeting to have a conversation that you've been talking about. You want to have conversations. We expressed our concerns with the routes. We have never said we want this route or that we endorse it in favor of another location. We don't want it in Merrimack. And I really, really resent you saying that we endorse something. And I'm really struggling with it right now. Anyway, that was wrong. That was totally wrong, and I don't know which meeting you were at.
All right. I'm sorry if I missed that, but you did present that route as an alternative.
We presented a route that went further away from our neighborhood, just as you're here talking today. We showed you routes that said if it goes this way, it would benefit our neighborhood. There's a big difference, as this council has said, saying you don't want it near something, but that you're not endorsing it. And that's what Amherst has said all along. Even though it has impacted us, Amherst has come out and said we do not endorse this pipeline, but these are our concerns. It is the same with Whittier Place, and we do not endorse this at all.
I apologize. I misspoke.
Hi, Tracy McGraw from Merrimack. First, I do want to also thank the town council for standing up for us. We hear the passion in your voices as well as ours back here, and while you guys have to keep a more professional face, we tend to have a little bit more passion coming from the back, so we apologize maybe for comments or things that you may have heard, but thank you very much for being there for us, for listening to us, for putting up with us when we want to complain. But that all being said, if you haven't figured it out already, guys, we don't want this here, okay? The inconsistencies are the thing that bothers me the most, okay? I'm a lawyer here in this town, and one of the biggest things that we have is our reputation. If you're a lawyer, if you're a liar once, that's it. It takes forever to get that respect back, that trust back, whether it's from your client or from your colleagues. You guys have lost it completely. This is the first meeting that I've been to. I haven't trusted anything that you've said after the first comments out of your mouth. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. I would love to refer to you by your name, sir, but I don't know your name. But Mike, you said you don't deal specifically with Merrimack. Yet there was a woman who stood up here just a couple of minutes ago who said, you need to come and talk to me because I have a business here in Merrimack and I have a problem. And there you are, promising her, I'm going to come and talk to you. But you don't deal, excuse me, I'm still talking. You don't deal specifically with Merrimack. It's the inconsistencies, okay? There may have been something else you could have said, but it's the inconsistencies. Mr. with the glasses on the end, I apologize. You're talking about we're going to work with the residents. We're going to work with the people who are property owners. We're not going to ram it down their throats. Well, it's obvious, and it's been said before, you are ramming it down our throats. How are you going to work with them? Are you going to buy that lady's 1800s property? Are you going to buy the other lady's 1700s property? How are you going to work with them? You're going to cut this tree and not that tree? The fact is they don't want it here, so there's nothing to work with. Move it. You originally said, and I believe Mr. Dwyer's the one that pointed this out to me, you originally were planning on bringing this up here, this whole co-location problem. You thought you abandoned that particular idea So just abandon the whole New Hampshire pipeline, go away, and we'll leave you alone as well.
Okay, we're done with the public. You can do it again. Yep, no one else is in line. Oh, someone's coming up. Hold on.
Oh, I'll let you go first.
Gina Rosati, Merrimack again. I just wanted to point out, because Julie brought up a good point, was she was talking about the Constitution, and also in that area that I was talking about before, there is a forest that back before the Revolutionary War, I believe it was King Philip sent his soldiers to cut down trees, and they were making boats. So I just want to point out, I know a lot of you guys are from the Texas area or wherever. We are the live free or die state. We are the granite state. So first of all, be prepared to blast through a ton of granite wherever you go. Second of all, we will fight as hard as we can. We fought through the Revolutionary War. We fought through the Civil War. My great-great-grandfather had his arm cut off on a battlefield. The last time that I remember a war, which my father also fought in, where they took people's land and they shoved poison gas through, were the Nazis. So if you guys want to be that, be my guest. Thank you.
Next.
Dave Nichols, 230 Amherst Road. I did a little research while I was sitting here, and I'm kind of new to this issue. I've been peripherally watching it. This is the first day I've actually done this research on the internet. How many times has FERC said no? As of March, it may have changed, but as of March, how many times did FERC say no to a pipeline? Since then, as of March, 0. There have been times when a no has happened because it got too expensive for a company to go forward. They withdrew. My friends, that is the only way this is going to happen, is if we link arms with our fellow citizens. Why did Massachusetts do better? For the reasons we don't like Massachusetts, because they're stubborn, obstinate, and liberal, and it's time we get the same way.
Kevin Tellier, Brook Drive, Merrimack, New Hampshire. And first of all, thanks to the town council. It sounds to me like you're doing the best you can with a very challenging, to say the least, situation. I guess in a way I'd like to talk about the elephant in the room. That's the way I see it right now. And that would be, from my perspective, what would the three greatest benefits of this pipeline going through? What would the greatest benefits to Merrimack be? What would it look like? What would the three greatest benefits look like? And
try to focus on the route.
And then on the other thing, I'm curious, there's a question, and the question is, why isn't it more common knowledge? That's where I'm going with this, about what the three, if we had a disaster, what would that look like? And whatever those opposites are, why isn't that more common knowledge to people? Because I think that's the place to start. I think that should be more common knowledge, whatever the perceived benefits are, which I have no idea what they would be for Merrimack, none whatsoever. What a disaster would look like, I think I have an idea what they would be. So those extremes, I think, should be more common knowledge, and I would encourage the town council and anybody to communicate that more, because right now I think that's a void. That's something that's missing.
You might want to talk to some of the neighborhood groups who have been very active for a long time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Wendy, and like a bad meal, I'm back. One of the things, first of all, you're talking about the open house. I went to the open house, and I looked at the maps that you had on the table, and they were outdated. And they had been changed because I'd gotten a copy through email. That's kind of interesting that you come to the town of Merrimack with outdated maps to talk about the route that's going through Merrimack. So, again, people have talked about the fact that we don't trust you. I don't trust you, as far as I could kick you. So this route that you have, and this is something that I haven't been able to get an answer to from anybody. Originally, they were talking about 17 miles of pipeline through the town of Merrimack. I believe that we have the most pipeline of all the towns in New Hampshire. 4.5 miles. Oh, it's, okay. Okay, yeah, 4.5. So does this add to that 4.5 miles? Because now it looks like you're kind of, going very sort of, Pablo Picasso on us all over the place. I would like to know the mileage and the footage of this new route, or any route that you propose. That seems to be missing from all of your maps. And, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's money, I don't know if Merrimack has rolled over. Not that we haven't rolled over, but, New Ipswich, they've got the compressor station, so they're franked. But we have the most pipeline, and I want to know, why is it that Merrimack has the most pipeline? Why did we get stuck with the most pipeline when it was? And it's a comment, but I still I cannot understand why you have this circuitous route that goes up through Merrimack like this. I mean, it defies logic, I guess. That's my comment.
I was wondering what franked was. I was wondering what franked was. Ipswich got franked.
Use your imagination. Please go ahead.
I want to thank the council for what they've done.
Could you name, please?
My name is James Murray. I live here in Merrimack.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I went to the open house, and I'm hearing the same thing again. As I stated then, it's nothing but a dog and pony show to try and ramrod this through, and I'm sorry. You need to listen to the people. We don't want this pipeline, period. I don't care where you put it. I know where I'd like to tell you to put it, but I'm sorry. We do not want it, period. End of story. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Taylor, and I live in New Ipswich, and my home happens to be very close to the proposed 41,000 horsepower compressor station, and the 30-inch pipeline goes down and around, so I'm kind of surrounded by it there. And I also work at Fidelity, and it looks like it's going to be kind of surrounding me there. And these folks know I don't want it, and New Ipswich doesn't want it. I want to thank you guys, especially for supporting your town. I want to address a couple of things. I want to know why, in the face of all these towns telling you that we don't need the gas, and we even have submitted documentation showing that a 30-inch pipeline doesn't address our very small New Hampshire deficit of about 14 days during the entire year, when we may be looking for a little bit more energy.
Try to focus on the route, please.
Okay, well, the route doesn't look like it's going to go up as quickly to Canada as you'd like it to go. That's one thing. And the other thing is, you love aquifers because New Ipswich survives on the aquifers. We don't have any public water supply. We're 100% wells. And I did want to comment on the person that said, well, what would be the hazard, the zone of a problem from a 30-inch pipeline? They might want to look up San Bruno, which isn't your explosion. 2010, that explosion of a 30-inch pipeline took 67 fire trucks, aerial water bombers, 8 lives, and about over 36 homes. So that's a 30-inch pipeline. Thank you.
I don't see anybody else wanting the mic, so.
Go right ahead.
I got a question. You probably not going to answer this either. If you scroll down, you guys are stuck to the spot up by Budweiser. Am I correct? You guys have to make that crossing there. I'm kind of asking a question: is there? You're not getting New Ipswich is getting a compression station, right? Is that what that's called? We're getting a metering station over there too.
Correct.
Okay. What's the possibility of we're getting a power plant here? Because I heard months ago from someone that designs them that there's been a power plant designed for Merrimack.
We're a shipper when a power plant energy.
No, I
provider,
understand that.
But
But you guys work together.
we're not aware of any at this point.
So if there was gas there. Because there's a lot of industrial land right down there. So I guess there's my big question of you guys won't budge off that spot. There's some commercial property for sale down there. Some of it's under agreement. I don't know if that's got you guys or affiliates, we'll call it. So here's my question is, a power plant would fit nicely, I guess, if Budweiser pulled out, or Fairpoint's no longer there. So I'm just kind of, this is going to evolve in my eyes, where I think Merrimack's so attractive to you with all the industrial land that we do have right in that area, okay? So I'm kind of following the breadcrumbs a little bit and kind of connecting the dots myself. You know, I didn't expect an answer from you guys from this. And I know you guys don't own power plants, but you can supply the gas to the power plant, if there was supposed to be one there, okay? Or a metering station. So what's involved in a metering station? Is there like you guys discharging gas off of like you do a compression station?
A meter station is, if you have a meter at your house and you have natural gas, it's just
check
a
the volume.
huge version of that. So the gas that we're transporting is what's called dry gas. It has very little liquid content in it, but nonetheless, when we build a compressor or a meter station, we put in provisions for if we get a more wetter gas. So it's going to have measurement meters in it, and it's going to have a separator if there were any liquids so that they could be dropped out before delivery. That's not going to happen with the gas that we're going to ship initially. And that's it. It's in a fairly small...
So in a sense, you're going to burp it, in a sense, maybe?
If it had wet gas,
Okay.
we would
Where
separate
does that wet
that.
gas go, I guess, is my next question.
I'm sorry?
Wet gas, where does that go?
The gas...
If you any water you're pulling off of that gas, where's that going?
Anything that comes off of that, we will dispose of it in a proper waste disposal facility.
Well, we used to hear about that with nuclear waste, and it just went into a mountain. You know.
Okay, you got about 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
I gave you
It will
extra
be
time.
properly disposed of. It's not going to happen in the near term with the gas that we're shipping.
Real quick, I asked this at the Farm Bureau, and I never really got it answered. You got all these 90s and such. Any angles on this gas that I was told, what's the temperature of the gas running through the pipe, 100 and what?
The gas as it leaves the compressor stations
Yep.
is at about 116 degrees.
Okay.
And then there's a Coriolis effect, and it'll cool as it's transported.
Correct. But when you hit what I'm going to call, it's known in the water or air, is friction points, which would be your corners and 45s, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, you can admit that that's a friction area that they call in the industry?
Right.
So
But
the temperature's going to increase on those spots.
It's very minor with gas. It's going to continue to decline until we get to another
In the
compressor
straightaway,
station.
but then you hit all these 45s tight.
Yeah,
it's
but
going to heat up. If you grab an air compressor line,
It's
gonna
not.
heat
It's
up.
not measurable.
Okay.
It's very minor.
Just to be able to make a comment that I'm sure there will be discussions about the metering station at a separate time as well.
Yeah, I was just bringing it up because they're stuck on that spot, and I'm
Gotcha.
telling,
Gotcha.
I'm seeing it. There's more plans for this area and this pipeline, in my eyes. You guys can tell us till you're blue in the face we're wrong, but I've been right every step of the way on this.
That's
Okay.
we have a delivery point on there in that area to Liberty, and
What
you
they
know,
do with it there at that point, yeah,
it's-
I
right.
get the whole.
It's Liberty.
You know that's not our.
It's Liberty
our
Utilities.
Uh,
area.
They got plans, is what I'm saying.
Come right in.
Melissa Carolyn at 27 Whittier Road here in Merrimack. I'm up in the Whittier place that pipeline doesn't seem to want to leave us at all, regardless of the plan, whether it went through, the forests over there, or it's the magenta line or the blue line. It keeps coming back to our neighborhood every single time. We went through the beautiful Simon property and the mall development there with the blasting. We had broken windows, neighbors had broken foundations, and that was the blasting there. That entire line between exit 10 all the way up past Simon Properties there is all ledge. We've had earthquakes here. That is all ledge. And if you're going to blast through all of that ledge and you're going to put a pipeline through, even the slightest bit of shifting in there, how can you guarantee that that is just not going to explode from that? You're talking about third party and somebody else hitting it with like a backhoe or something like that, digging. You're talking about putting a pipeline through ledge. We're the Granite State. That is all ledge there on the side of that Simon property, not moist ground, grasslands, anything like that. It's all ledge. And it goes right by our house. And that is all residential in that neighborhood there. And you're going to tell me that my house isn't going to explode from any kind of shift in that granite or the blasting that you're going to do? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Christy Bradshaw, 54 Whittier Road. I want to thank the town council members and the other representatives of our town for all you have done and for bringing this meeting together. Mike and Barry. Hi, I'm over here. Barry, I was in that meeting in Concord with you and with Mike and with Michelle Watson and with our attorney, and we by no means endorsed a route coming that way. And the map that was handed to you that had a route that went straight up on the outside of the outlets there, parallel to the highway, that was a map that came from your email, Barry, communicating with communicating with the town of Merrimack, and that was something that we were able to get our hands on. And we did not say we want it going up that way. We showed you an area further south of exit 10 and said, please take a look at that area. You told us the reason it was anchored to that area was because your customer, Liberty, wants the metering station there. I met personally with Liberty this week. They have put it in writing, and they have said to us they have never identified a spot right there, and they don't care where the metering station is. Wherever the pipeline goes, that's what will dictate where the metering station is. Get it out of Whittier Place. Cross somewhere else so you're not affecting all of these homes. It doesn't belong there. You said the DOT was friendly and easy to work with, and they're the ones who said, well, cross here because there's a sewer that you can align with. There are probably 1,000 other spots that if you went to them and said, how about here, they would say, okay, but consider this. Get out of that area. That's a neighborhood of 64 homes, hundreds of people, children. Why do you keep crossing there? I hope you have more massaging to do to this very rugged route that you just sprung on us at the last minute. We were all very respectful of you, and we have played the way you want us to play, and then you pull this on us in the last second before we're all of these people who have gathered here to speak about a route that we are trying to have some credible input towards. You just pull the rug out from underneath us, and I'm disgusted by your behavior.
Thank you.
Deborah Huffman, 16 Amherst Road. I hesitate to do this because anyone who makes any suggestion to you about a route, God help me, I'm not endorsing anything. But if you can scroll up a little bit, going back a little bit to what Whittier had suggested, scroll it up so we see a little bit to the south, please. Where you come and you approach the not that far, you approach the turnpike, and if you were taking, if you, as you approach the turnpike, directly across the turnpike is BAE. That's right, we can see BAE toward the bottom. If you were to go directly across, see, right there, into BAE and along the Robert Milligan Parkway, and then either along Daniel Webster, where there's already a gas pipeline along that area of Daniel Webster, or crossing directly over, to the just south of that bend that you seem concerned about, there is another straight area of the river. I'm just saying, BAE is about the only, and God, I can't even believe I'm even suggesting to you anything about a route, but of all the businesses in Merrimack, BAE is the only one who seems at all inclined to like you folks. So I say, give them your pipeline. Give it to them hard. Ram it on BAE. They think this is a good idea. They've lost their minds. Give it to them. They deserve it. If you have to come to, and I don't want you in Merrimack at all. But if you're here, be in BAE.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, I think we're set. Absolutely.
So the path between Home Depot and Auto Fair, that path takes through a number of stormwater discharge areas, all that sort of stuff. How do you propose to deal with that?
We will have to get with them and understand that and understand the plumbing there and work with them.
Because it's extensively put in order to capture the water to bring it back into the ground because of the aquifer. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure they have enough property in that area to redistribute that. So you're going to need to take a good look at that, especially the Auto Fair area as well. I mean, there was a lot of accommodations made to capture all their stormwater as well. So. Thank you.
Was there some work going on there recently as well? Looks like there's been some
Yeah.
upgrading to that in
Yeah,
the past.
they're doing it right now, yeah. And all those plans were recently done, but you'll have to go back a few years for the Home Depot ones. But right where you're proposing to put it through, that's all stormwater picking up off the pavement of the parking lot, the buildings, and all that.
I mentioned earlier, we're going to bring the line over here closer to the turnpike, and we're going to work with Simon Properties to make sure that they're made whole with their stormwater basin right here.
Keep talking about that, what about the neighborhoods?
If you want to say something, come on up. Thank you. Okay. Is there any?
Nancy, I beg of you guys to talk to those businesses, please. I know Fidelity's been very vocal, and Simon Properties, they're very big too, but you really, really need to talk to Home Depot and Auto Fair. This route affects them greatly. I don't understand how you can draw a line on a map without talking to them. I don't know if we're drawing a line on a map and then waiting for responses afterwards. To me, that's just not the right way to go about it. So I really beg of you guys to talk to them, because this is a huge impact. That whole intersection is, even the smaller businesses that don't have as much money, please talk to them and understand what the impacts are before you file this application, whenever it is you're going to file it. I think you're going to find the impact is greater than you suspected. Thank you, Nancy.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Tom.
Just along that line, many of these small businesses figure they're going to be out of business if you put the pipeline in where they are, near them. Okay?
Pennachuck area.
As Jody has said, it's important to talk to them about this, because they're in the catastrophic results phase of this whole thing, in considering what might happen, and they've leaped to the end. Okay, if they put this thing in, my business is going to be so disrupted, I'm never going to get it back, and I'm going to have to close up everything. So, it's like we said, these are the smaller guys. They don't have their they're doing okay, but they don't have that much in reserve to handle issues, and they don't have the attorney power that some of the other corporations have. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the panel? Go right ahead.
I kind of hesitated bringing this up, but we might as well, since there's so many bends and all that stuff. So the pipeline, natural gas today, is it anything else tomorrow? Are you doing something to enhance that ability to run something else, transport something else, or is it natural gas forever?
So to get this, a certificate for this project, we have to go through FERC, and we will remain under their umbrella, so to speak. If we want to change the service of this line, we would have to get their permission to do that, and we would go through a similar public process just like this. This is my own personal opinion. But you're not going to see, I mean, the writing's on the wall, I guess, that we, as a country and in the whole world, we're moving towards more renewables. I don't think you're going to see anything else in this line in the future, oil or refined products or anything like that.
Well, Barry, in addition to the permitting process associated with this line, the individual easement agreements with property owners, the town, and with businesses will specifically call out the product that could be put through the line.
Right.
So it will specifically call out natural gas.
And it's I just one further thing to add is, this is designed to transport natural gas. So if you wanted to transport oil, for instance, or refined products, jet fuel, diesel, whatever, it would be a huge major retrofit. So there's a huge cost change in doing something like that as well. So it wouldn't be not a simple thing to change. I'm just trying to emphasize that.
Okay, any other questions from the panel? Yes, Lon.
Just a request, Madam Chairman, could I submit copies of my remarks for the record?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, next is there any press here who wants to make a comment? If you dare. They'll be watching this and doing the reporting based upon that. No. Okay. Oh, okay. One more. Make special exception.
Thank you very
Go right
much. Ed Thoman from 216 Natticook Road in Merrimack. I'd like to ask if you guys could talk to the residents as well. Not only the small businesses, but the guys on Natticook Road, especially that congested area. A number of homes, and I don't know how far you know who the residents are or who is affected. Maybe it's that survey zone or maybe it's a blast zone. I don't know, but who would be impacted by that route. Thank you.
Okay, before we get a motion to adjourn, I just want to express my gratitude to everybody in the audience for expressing themselves in a respectful and passionate way, and we can leave this again feeling proud of Merrimack for their classy ways. Okay, gentlemen, and Mr. Ford, remember, we have to talk before you leave. Okay. I would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Seconded.
Tom Mahan and Bill Boyd, and only the town council can vote on this, gentlemen. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you.